city workers prepare for the latest spring storm. New Democratic members storm out of Queen's Park in protest. And another high-ranking member of the Prime Minister's staff leaves in a storm of controversy.
Good evening and thank you for joining us. A freezing rain warning is currently in effect for much of the region, including Thunder Bay.
According to Environment Canada, areas close to Lake Superior could see rainfall amounts of 10 to 20 millimeters. The threat of bad weather has city crews on call when and if the storm hits. Brad Adams is the manager of Roads Division with the City of Thunder Bay. He says they are continually monitoring the weather and have equipment and manpower ready to go at any time. Adams adds they recently purchased a weather tool that helps them track the current condition in greater detail before making any decisions.
Oh, that all depends what happens. If we get rain, hopefully it'll be warm enough so it doesn't freeze and the wind will dry the roads quickly. So we'll assess that. So if it need to be, we'll use sanders and sidewalk sanders as well.
The winter storm is expected to end Tuesday evening. Fiona Gardner will have more details during weather.
A Thunder Bay man remains in the burn unit of a Toronto hospital after a blaze that broke out in a Strand Avenue home on Friday afternoon. Thunder Bay Fire Rescue responded after receiving an emergency call from a neighbor who saw smoke coming through the windows. Fire officials say the lone occupant attempted to douse the flames by shoveling snow onto the fire and also by using an extinguisher borrowed from a neighbor. The man was transported to Thunder Bay Regional before being airlifted to the burn unit at Toronto's Sunnybrook Health Sciences Centre. The man is believed to be in good to fair condition. The Ontario Fire Marshal is investigating the cause of the blaze.
Another Thunder Bay resident is facing child pornography-related charges. The charges come as a result of an ongoing peer-to-peer file-sharing investigation by the City Police Service. Information uncovered during the investigation prompted police to execute a search warrant at a Hodder Avenue home last week and the seizure of 2 computers, flash drives, and SD cards. Examination of those items found images of kiddie porn. 23-year-old Roger Constantin has now been charged with possession of child pornography and making available child pornography. He next appears in court at the end of April.
Dozens of people rallied outside the offices of some Thunder Bay politicians today. It was one of more than 40 demonstrations across the country calling for a renewal of the Health Accord. The 10-year, $40 billion accord officially expires today. As Dennis Ward reports, that has some worried about the future of healthcare in Canada.
Canada needs the Health Accord! Canada needs the Health Accord!
The Thunder Bay Health Coalition was joined by dozens of members from local unions and others concerned about the future of health care. Jules Tupker is the co-chair of the coalition. He says transfers from the federal government to the provinces will be cut by $36 billion over the next 10 years.
Well, that means if there's no money coming in, then there's only one way to make the operation work, and that's to cut services, basically. So we're anticipating that there's going to be more problems in the hospital. In Thunder Bay especially, we already have problems with gridlock, and there's problems with long-term care and home care. Because of funding issues, and now it's going to get even worse.
The local health coalition and supporters walked from City Hall to MPP Bill Morrow's office. Provincially, hospital budgets are frozen, and Tupker feels they struggle to keep up the service levels now. Those who took part in the rally believe the end of the accord and stable funding will only see health care deteriorate.
If they don't give us money, then every province will fund health care the way it sees fit. But there won't be any longer a federal standard, a national standard. And that's what Canada is known for all around the world. Oh, you have good health care. And with the death of the Health Accord, we won't have good health care.
Canada needs the Health Accord! Fund it now!
The rally wrapped up outside of MP John Rafferty's office. Organizers hope the National Day of Action will alert Canadians to the end of the Health Accord and pressure the federal government to renegotiate it. Dennis Ward, TBT News.
The opposition parties in Ontario have more questions about the alleged destruction of data related to 2 cancelled gas plants. But Liberal Premier Kathleen Wynne wasn't in the legislature to answer them, so the NDP walked out.
To face questions today about the Liberal gas plant scandal, the Premier is making a mockery of accountability. New Democrats will not participate.
Wynn's office says she is away on a previously scheduled trip to Sault Ste. Marie. A police document made public last week shows investigators believe computer hard drives were deliberately wiped clean of materials related to the cancelled plans. They allege the chief of staff for Wynn's predecessor, Dalton McGuinty, brought in an outside IT expert to do it. But Ontario Conservative leader Tim Hudak insisted again today the deletions took place under Wynn's watch, whether she knew about them or not. The Premier has threatened to sue him for defamation.
For the 8th consecutive year, Lakehead University is raising tuition fees. The school's Board of Governors approved the hike, which will increase student tuition by an average of 3%. But unlike in years past, you won't see a student union-led protest. Instead, LUSU is simply asking for assurances that the extra money will be spent appropriately.
Education is a right. We will not give up the fight.
Tuition is going up yet again, but you won't hear any protesting.
We just saw it wasn't working, right? I mean, it's been 8 years in a row, and we've never been successful in getting the university not to raise fees.
Instead, Kaufman and the student union are calling for more transparency and accountability regarding where exactly the money is going. LUSU has offered to split the cost of a third-party financial review of the university's books, but the Board of Governors has yet to indicate that it would consider such a request.
It's never a bad thing to ensure that you're being financially, effective and efficient.
But University Board Chair Cameron Clark needs no further proof that the school's budget is handled responsibly.
Every year we have an independent auditor who goes over the details of the budget to ensure that it's appropriate. I think what we are open to is ongoing discussion, particularly between LUSU and administration, to better understand the challenges we're facing collectively and figure out ways of addressing them.
But for some members of a student body that are now paying on average 40% more for their tuition than those who attended Lakehead in 2006, they'd love to know exactly where the money is being spent.
Yeah, for sure that would be good because, I have no idea if the school's making money or losing money ever anyway, so it'd be nice to know that kind of thing.
I think it's a lot better if we do know where the money's going and why it's necessary to raise it. Other than that, you're going to have a lot of angry students.
Among other things, LUSU is also asking the board to co-author alongside the union a letter to Premier Kathleen Wynne, asking for increased government funding for post-secondary schools and additional student support programs. Clark is optimistic that such a letter could be drafted in the near future.
It always has to be mindful of the challenges that universities are facing and be open to exploring ideas that will allow us to do our job better.
If the university is cooperative and does provide transparency in terms of their finances, and it comes out that they really do have no choice, then we can stand beside the university to ask for a different funding framework provincially.
Well, it's a situation that's existed for a couple of years now, but it could land dog owners with a fine of upwards of $5,000. City bylaw officers are cracking down on those who continue to walk their pets without a leash in the wooded area behind the Lakehead Psychiatric Hospital. Ron Beret is the city manager of licensing and enforcement. He believes there's a misconception regarding who actually owns the grounds. However, the second your pet leaves your property, it's considered a dog running at large. A serious dog attack took place a few years ago between two dogs, one on a leash and one that wasn't, in this specific area. Beret says they'll begin issuing first offense tickets that range from $150 to $200, and repeat offenders could be hit with a $5,000 fine and face a criminal trial.
We always say my dog does not bite. Well, guess what? It may not bite you and it may love your family, but at the end of the day, you don't know what's going to trigger that dog to attack another dog, notwithstanding a human being. So that is why we recommend that it be on leash. Further than that, we were very proud working with our Parks Division to come up with off-leash parks. That's what they're for. If you want your dog to run free, the officers can direct people to do that.
Beret says they're considering putting up signs in the area so that people know their dog should be on a leash before the first ticket is issued.
You might tell your kids it builds character, but the Lakehead Public School Board is looking at the health benefits of walking instead of taking the bus to school. Right now, elementary school students are required to walk if they live close by, with the distances ranging from 0.4 to 1.6 kilometers based on age. For high school students, those who live within a 1.6 kilometer radius of the school need to leg it to class. Lakehead Board trustees are currently looking into the walk distances for all grades, but their main focus is on the secondary school students. While no official report has been put forward yet, they are looking into expanding the radius, and that would mean more students would have further to walk.
Lakehead District School Board revised their transportation policy earlier in the year, and it included a statement about supporting an active and healthy lifestyle. I think that this is a positive thing. We're reviewing this from an aspect of health. I mean, there's a potential for cost savings, but that's definitely not the driver here. It's is 1.6 kilometer walk distance suitable for students today.
Well, the board has not yet met with all of the stakeholders, but there is speculation around changing the distances to somewhere in the neighborhood of 2.4 or even 3.2 kilometers. The trustees are expected to discuss the options later this spring.
Families of those with intellectual disabilities or mental illness are discussing what they'd like to see in terms of care and support in the community. Organizers of the Own the Future workshop say the current systems in place for providing care aren't able to respond quickly enough. And they say care and support should not always have to require paid staff. Marella Stroink is one of the presenters at the workshop. She says for many people, the idea of being inclusive and supportive starts in schools, and it's important to have outside support because the system can't always meet the unique needs of those clients.
And over time, just like we saw with the institutions, that system is becoming less and less responsive to the people on the grassroots. Not that they're doing things wrong, they're doing the best they can with what they have, but the pressures on that system are so strong that they can't bend and respond quickly to what people want.
We can provide some relief to the service system by finding ways in which the community itself can provide support and a place for people to go and make people feel like they're actually included in something. Because what you do is you make the individual, and the individual's happy, and when you don't have people complaining, and when you have staff too, they're also happy on the job, that's when you've got the perfect mix. That's the most efficient way to deliver services.
Stroink and Hall also say something as simple as getting someone with unique needs involved in play or activities with others is a cheap and easy way to give that person support.
Well, just a few years ago, 25% of the children in Liberia would die from drinking unsafe water. That number is now down to 12% with help from a Thunder Bay group of volunteers called Life Water. They've been drilling wells in countries across Africa for 20 years, now providing clean drinking water for around 500,000 people. But as Rochelle Sufi explains, they can't do it alone, and they're now looking for sponsors.
Life Water President Jim Garros founded this group right around the time he started going blind. His deteriorating eye condition pushed him into traveling to Africa to help others. He says drinking contaminated water in these villages leads to death. That's why drilling water wells is so essential. Garros says each water well costs $3,000. Something he spent roughly $100,000 out of his own pocket, and at this point just can't afford to sponsor more wells on his own.
One of them is at a school called Rose of Sharon School. We don't have a sponsor for it. And the other was in a community village that had no water. They were drinking from a swamp. And as soon as we can get sponsors for those two wells, then the drill teams can move on.
He says building these water wells not only saves thousands of lives on a daily basis, but it allows girls to receive an equal education.
The girls don't have to stay out of school because they have to walk to distant water sources.
Sponsorship coordinator and retired nurse Linda Garros works alongside her husband in Africa and in their home office. She uses her practical nurse skills to help aid in hygienic workshops.
Well, people in Africa and Haiti, they don't understand that disease can be transmitted through your hands, what they've touched, through your water. And so very simple basic hygiene education.
Life Water will be hosting a meet and greet this Friday at the West Thunder Community Center. Tickets are on sale for $25. For more information on the event or to make a donation, you can go to lifewater.ca or phone 622-4848. Rochelle Sufi, TBT News.